Is it still broken? Is it still broken, folks? Is it still broken? Brocano. Hey, Brocano, bro. Yo, there were like 21 valuable people here. Am I still broken, bro? Can you guys hear me? No audio? Hey, Pablito. What happened, dude? Can you guys hear me? You guys hear me still? Is there no audio? Said hi. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Someone was saying there's no audio. Let me catch up this stream and see if there's audio.
Someone was saying there's no audio.
Oh, BS. Now there I am. I can hear myself, so I have got audio. Thank God. Thank goodness. Let me see. I'm going to plug my phone in. I got to plug it to the power source here. Okay. You guys can still hear me, hopefully. Let me check. Let me check myself so I'm not bugging you guys to do this. I don't want to be bothering you guys to do this. Hell yeah, brother. There we go. Yeah, so Pablito, hey, what's going on? Thank you guys for sticking with me. Thanks for being patient. I hate having those technical issues. That's how much of the internet I don't understand, right? You know, because I know some of the people are just going to bounce out right away, and that's kind of cool, whatever. You know, that's cool, I get it. But yeah, okay, so here's what I'm thinking about. You know, totally thrown off my flow. Totally thrown off my flow, you know, just how I like it. Okay, so I just want to hang out, right? I want to be able to, you know, here's what I think is that I'm a progressive Democrat. You know, I want to grift for Kamala votes. I want to grift for Pete Buttigieg. You know, I want to stand up and I want to take the chopsticks and go find like the best part of Gavin Newsom, you know, like I'm trimming a bonsai tree, you know, because this is who I am, right? This is what a sicko I am. You know, I'm not a leftist. I'm just obsessed with these people. I'm obsessed with the policies. You know, I want to make an hour-long video on the old Green New Deal, and I want to be able to, like, you know, make an ice statue for AOC. And so I understand, I respect that in some regards, you know, Unk's a little broken. Unk doesn't get it. You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I want to talk about textbooks. You know, if you'll listen. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah. No, so somebody right now, okay, so I don't know if this guy's going to fix me, but he's saying, this guy's talking about cranking it on the bus. You know, YouTube blocked that message. He said, I was cranking it on the bus today and never was caught. What a rush. And then he says, your voice is annoying. So I don't think you're going to actually tune me up in terms of, you know, finding self-actualized version of Duck. What was your take on Sisyphus? Which one was he? Was Sisyphus the guy that was pushing the rock up the hill? The myth of Sisyphus? Sisyphus. Yeah, I mean, Sisyphus is a little bit about divine punishment, right? That there, you know, it's, to me, the metaphysical implication. That's a great question, too. To me, the myth of Sisyphus is about like divine punishment, less than the person. So there's a version of the universe where people can be punished endlessly by God, by the universe, by nature. You know, you have this endless repetitive task, and you know, you can spin it up in as many ways possible as you freaking want. Dude, that's crazy. That is your crazy take, my friend. Yeah, hopefully, dude. You know, go find another YouTuber if you don't like that. You don't like that I'm gonna celebrate the pain a little bit. That's where I come from, right? I come from showing up in the room. I come from trying to find an authentic version of myself. And you get punished for that too, dog. Not even just finding an authentic version of yourself, but you know, I show up trying to be a good teammate. I show up trying to, you know, be inclusive, hear other people's opinions and voices. And so the myth of Sisyphus in this regards is saying, you showed up to help people, but I still got this guy's still doing that, right? So you still are doing this under the threat of punishment. You're still doing this under this threat of punishment. But then you also have this guy's own personal psychology. You know, why is this guy, he ain't in chains. This guy ain't in chains. You know, Sisyphus pushing the ball up the hill repeatedly. You know, there's no metaphysics there. It's just the metaphysics of the person, you know? And so we also self-select or choose to do the same repetitive tasks with very little payback, payoffs. Hey, you don't like the beard, dude? You should have seen it back in the past, man. You should have seen it back in the past. And I appreciate that Mohammed here, welcome to the stream too, but I appreciate that Mohammed here dislikes my beard so freaking much that he's not even copy pasting. He's writing new messages to me. He's fixing me up. Bro, though. Nah. Give me a second. Let me show you how I deal with this. Let me show you, man. You ain't getting out of this, bro. You want to criticize my aesthetic, my appeal, my look? Thank you for knowing who he is. I also asked 20 people. Great take. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. I want to go to Starbucks, dude. We going to Starbucks, brother. You know, you can buy anything on the internet these days. You can buy coffee. This is true. You can buy coffee. You can buy new audio video equipment. You can buy a bicycle. You can buy a bicycle or a bike. You can buy new glasses. You can buy blue light glasses, right? Because on the internet, they want you to block the blue lights, right? They want you to have that organic sort of party methodology, party down mode. So you block the blue lights, but you don't block any of the other lights, and you say, I'm gonna fix myself. I want to fix myself here, you know? So that's what I'm coming on. That's what I'm coming on. You know, but I ain't wrong about Donald Trump and MAGA. This guy held a press conference. He had, you know, no offense to Joe Rogan. Shout out Short Kings. We got rid of that one. I know we did. But, you know, this guy had, you know, Joe Rogan was like looking over his shoulder while he's signing this bill about psychedelics in the White House today. Get out of here, dog. Get out of here. You know, CNN is off, you know, I don't know where CNN comes in, where they get off, but they're talking about, well, the public opinion in the Iran war. Public opinion in the war in Iran. You know, that's not serious business, right? You know, it's not serious business that we've heard that same song and dance before here in the United States. People that are pro-peace, we've been talking about that. We've been talking about that. Stop waffling. You said the word shave. Nah, folks, we ain't shaving. We ain't shaving. I'm on Muhammad as long as I can about fixing my beard. I didn't say fix my beard. I said fix me because I want to talk about communist stuff. Not that I'm a leftist. I'm not even a communist. You know, I ain't French Canadian. I ain't frickin' a Baathist. You know, I ain't frickin' you know, whoever you want to say. Jesus, dude, YouTube keeps shutting my thing down. Merci. We back, baby. We back. So apologies to everybody who left the stream because I shut it down. You're gonna miss a great show. You're missing a great show. This message, shave your... No, I ain't shaving nothing, dude. Merci. Move to New York City. Hell yeah. To talk about communism, I can go move to New York City to talk to Zoran Mamdani about all the stuff I messed up in my life. Everything that's freaking wrong over and over, repeatedly into the same task, dude. Everything metaphysical, repeated in the same task, picking it up, 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 picking it up. All the way, all the time, all the time. No, I didn't talk like that. I didn't say anything like that. I didn't talk like that. I didn't say I was going to fix myself up. Hey, you know, you want to know something about your buddy Duck? You know, and you guys too. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So fix me so I'm not a communist. I tell you I'm not going to do that. Fix me today so I'm not a communist anymore. Refresh the chat. What did I say? First thing in the freaking messages. Fix me so I'm not a communist, eh? What was the other thing I said? I was talking about something else. That was an at to some of you, by the way. The second one that I'm adding you guys on is also fix Trump because he was chilling with little kitties. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You know, this is the guy you give a stealth bomber to, you know. Hey, you know, Juan, you know, yeah, you know, whatever. I mean, why even loop someone else into this? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Metaphysical is useless. Bruh. I support your journey. Hey, shout out. We got Zot Night. We got Snot Night, Zot Night. Hey, no offense, right? We got It's All Nice, It's Not Nice in the chat. 99, some other numbers. It scrolled up. I can't see them. Shout out to you. Yeah, we are an allyship channel. So if you guys are repping, ensuring that, we do have gay rights around the world, hell yeah, brother. We don't got to talk more about that right now, but hell yeah, brother. I believe in people. I believe in people being the same kind of people that want to be my people, Here's the thing is if you are gay or you're a different religion, a different race, color, any of this stuff, and you go out and you're like, yo, shout out trees, shout out birds, shout out lizards, shout out all this stuff. To me, I'm like, okay, cool. I respect, trans folks too. One of the more pertinent ones, not today, but some other time we'll talk. But yeah, shout out birds, trees, shout out the sun and stuff like that. Shout out science and whatever underlies science and nature. Cool. Hell yeah, brother. Because you are like me in that way, I want to shout you out and make sure that both of us recognize and appreciate. Both of us are there and we're saying, hey, we got the same constitution, the same set of laws. We vote for the same politicians, because I know this is how wild on this I am. Woo! Boys getting blown back to the back of the head. I'll come through comments in just a second here. Let me get through this. So I get blown back to the back of the head real quick on this because I know that you have something correct to say that if you're a Trump voter or you're a Democrat or you're watching stuff around the world and have a different opinion about it. I know that you are actually valid saying that I am like a different person. If I am not, if me and society are not doing our parts to lift you up and elevate the broken parts to the same thing that it's like for everybody else, right? I just know that's true. I know that somebody that needs a voice like AOC for environmental culture, environmental issues, for immigrants, for people who are gay. People need AOC in order to elevate those people up. Don't get that twisted. Not even a little bit, fam. Not even a little bit, folks. People need AOC, and so you see her different, right? You say I'm a communist, and I said fix me, but I was joking. Don't actually fix me. I'm not actually a communist, but you say, yeah, I want AOC to be a communist. I want Barney Mac Sanders. I want him to be a democratic socialist so he can talk about these issues in the way that helps me, in the way that helps my people. So respect to that, right? Respect to that. If you're following my flow, I am not anymore. Hey, what's up? Make asylums great again. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, dude. Little whatever. Trump and Netanyahu are devil. Hell yeah, brother. No, respect those people. I threw some shade at those guys the other day. People are arguing that because of their faith, their religion, because of their belief in Christianity or Judaism, they are continuing, this evil war in Iran. And this is slightly wrong because we have got people that do not identify with this national identity or platform that we go to war all the time. There's people that don't identify with the idea that in different senses, but that capitalism is the reason that we go to war and fight each other. Making money is the reason, holding power, being able to exert pressure down on a society from a certain position. Whatever. None of these are reasons that we actually go to war with each other. These are reasons we conduct diplomacy. These are reasons that we get better ourselves in order to do more. Well, my football journey might come to an end. Bro, Connor, how's that, dude? Oh, man. Yeah, knees, ankles, bows, or toes, dude. I hope everything's okay. Our resident star athlete. Dang, dude. My heart is freaking shot, dude. I'm sorry about that, bro. I'm sorry about that, dude. Yeah, you got baseball season and stuff like that. Dang, bro. Let's see. Blocked message. If the Game Boys want a SDDD, if y'all want a SDD, I don't care, but don't tell me about it. I don't go around bragging when I have blah, 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 blah. Yeah, great job. Hyper masculine stuff, no kissing and telling, of course. Hey, that's a good step, folks. Not even with the internet. Trump and Netanyahu are the devil. Yeah, all these. Hey, YouTube moderation, shout out. They say hi, I say hi back. Why do I have to believe in what you want today? Why do I have to believe in what you want today? I was saying to fix me, Tom, first and foremost. If you don't want to be a communist, go to work. Hey, I'm trying, dog. I got an interview next week. Yeah, I got an interview. Getting the channel ramped up. Getting the channel. Guys, 20 seconds left in the goal. We need 500 red super chats. 500 red super chats. Thank you guys for being aware of that. Failed goals are nothing to me. I'll just let you know, every single one of our successes and failures makes us stronger as a community. So we do need, that's going to be about $5,000 we looking to raise today. Let's go, folks. What job you trying to get? I don't know. They haven't told me everything about it yet. So it's one of those types of jobs. I'll give it one more in, and if you have any more heart problems, I'm going to call you quits. Hell yeah, brother. A little coffee. Oh, baby, we getting it started today. Clean up that beard. Nah, I'm not ready to do all that stuff yet. I ain't ready for all that stuff yet. You're the second person, Sly, coming in telling me I got to clean up my... Get this freaking goal out of here, dude. Get this freaking... Do you guys see that? 0 out of 50 red supers, bro. Have a great weekend, Duck. Hey, Underboss, yeah, you too. Enjoy time to yourself, unto one's own self, and unto others. And yeah, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today. Let's see. I have no desire to make USA like Europe. At the moment, Europe is dying from leftist policies. Yeah, Europe, really smart people in a lot of ways. This is one of the things like an example of something a European can make fun of an American about a little bit in the year 2025, 2026. Don't tell Uncle Donnie I'm talking about this, Uncle Donnie, this guy's crazy. This guy goes to Mar-a-Lago and he goes, I want to look at the bar. Stock more Patron and Scotch so everyone else can drink, but I don't have to. No, but Europeans will be like, well, look, if you have a good job, you have a good stable job, you got a good living scenario and situation, you're going to go travel or something, right? You got to go travel. Or if you don't travel, and you're just in your community, it's like, okay, well, you are organically going to become, you might have this aura or awe or become this sort of like repulsive creature because you found all this success and you're not willing to go out and share or experience this success with the world. And in the United States, when you have that same person being successful, you got to throw in 1,000 people throwing popcorn at him, say, hey, what's this mofo gonna do? What are you gonna do with it? Is he still sniffling like he was? Yeah, heck yeah, dude. That's all I'm doing. Yeah, and so if you guys want to fix these people like they ain't communists, go do it, dude. What part you from, though? I'm from Hamilton. Overcooked. Trump is in the Americas. TDS. That explains the begging. I don't have any TDS. You guys, I didn't say anything about TDS. If you guys refresh the chat, you can see the message right there. Clear as anything. Hey, what up, Vixie? 4 months sober today. Hey, congratulations. Congratulations. Epstein file trials coming soon. Epstein files trials coming soon for sure. Yeah, who knows? It seemed like Melania Trump was talking that Donald Trump doesn't need to account for possible crimes he committed with once with Jeffrey Epstein, and once one with the office of the president. I would be hard pressed to see that Trump's nepotistic as well as violent and unilateral, acting only with himself behavior in the context in which it happened. There's no U.S. law that he broke. He's acting in the spirit of the U.S. Constitution and then the laws that followed over 300 years, right? Unfortunately, the reason Donald Trump probably has an army of lawyers is because it should be hard to not break laws when you're in that sort of position. Donald Trump doesn't get to avoid that because he's friends with fight commentators and all this other nonsense. You want the angry people down here yelling at you, yelling up, yelling up, yelling up, yelling up, yelling up. Yeah, well, there's really no rule or workaround for it. You're supposed to, if let's say you get arrested for some petty nonsense, right? Wrong signature on a tax form or something, and so this guy then, Donald Trump, he gets the same sort of legal treatment as everybody else, but you're also supposed to wait for people to say, well, this is some petty nonsense, but it's not petty nonsense. If we are asking about how Donald Trump's, coordinated and handled, people trying to influence the judicial system or people that have been trying to use or not use the laws and the governing rules, even the fair conduct rules that exist in the Congress. Well, you tried to do something audacious that maybe you're not allowed to do, right? You're allowed to say all Republicans got to be part of MAGA, but you ain't allowed to say that Donald Trump himself is like this you ain't allowed to say that like Donald Trump himself is going to be whatever you call it. Donald Trump is you're allowed to make the Republican Party MAGA, but then you're allowed to break laws in the world. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah, Trump. Hey, what's up? Yesenia Garcia, good to see you. Trump, hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. All right. His eyes, they closed, and his last breath spoke. He'd seen all to be seen. Do-do, do-do, do-do-do, do-do, 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 do-do. A lot of people won't make it through this process. Yeah. Is True Texas wants Senator Ted Cruz for governor? Is it True Texas wants Senator Ted Cruz? Yeah, I mean, I think Rick Scott, I don't think Ted Cruz is doing politics right now, is he? Ted Cruz has been a quiet little baby girl. He's gonna be telling people he's got his best years ahead of him. But yeah, Rick Scott seemed to have lost a lot of the trust and faith of a lot of people in Texas. He's created more political divisions than perhaps anyone. But it's sort of arbitrary, right? It's sort of arbitrary because Texas is part of the United States like everyone else. You can pretend like it isn't, but they're just responding to different stuff in the United States like everyone else. And so who knows, right? That's your job to understand that if you're either Ted Cruz or Rick Scott. It's not my job to explain that for you. And so you can say, well, I can actually walk you through how it works. And if you're concerned about political competition or whatever it is you actually care about, I'll have to explain it to you in a way that only a communist could understand. Jack Enrico, yeah, we should just invite, the guys playing chess and getting coffee in Brooklyn, from all 5 boroughs. Why don't we just select people in New York to go run the country everywhere, right? Hey, I'm telling you, this is how it is, okay? And most of the year they don't really mean it. Hey guys, I've tried being a Democrat and liberal, but my head just wouldn't fit up your whatever. Yeah, I mean, Texas, I would recommend that, that self-recognition, the appreciation, a lot of things that you have there, whatever sort of pre-existing presumptions that you have coming into it, those are good things. But I would just ask, like, generations and generations as, the people you care about spread out. I would think that a minimal government still can fit that idea that there's a social safety net. If you are really angry that day, say that the United States is a welfare state. And maybe start with that, right? Start with that. And then start with the other thing you can also start with is that, a 19-year-old belle of the South doesn't see a nuclear power plant and suddenly have some like valid opinion about politics there. A 19-year-old belle of the South doesn't get to go see a Ford Chevy pickup truck. I'm going to touch on all the hot button sore issues for you. They don't get to have Texas barbecue. They don't get God country pickup trucks, all this other stuff. And suddenly they are, they don't get to like, yeah, and so, the metaphysics, people would say what we're kind of talking about a little bit today is the metaphysics and the verb phrases that are around these things is that, yeah, if you are feeling sickly because of the decisions of Rick Scott, that he's literally influencing the murder of pregnant women. He's literally influencing the health outcomes of pregnant women and stuff like this and celebrating it. He's celebrating this. Then, yeah, there is just this whole other side of voting purple progressive, right? Purple progressive. You say, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable. If I don't think people have been working, grinding in the United States, we don't have a chance at peace. We don't have a chance at diplomacy. We don't have a chance at making our country more efficient. And then you say, well, my love verbs for this stuff is that, yeah, people can just go out and they've got a clear path to pursue or something. And that ain't ever less clear. I don't know how to fix that, right? I don't know how to fix that. I don't think it's TDS to say that this Donald Trump guy is really throwing a wrench in everything. There is no like cosmopolitan digital world that exists everywhere else. It exists in the United States, but it's just because, we have to start by being kind, compassionate people. We have a political vacuum in the UK. Timu Trump. Yeah, it could be. That's like Italy. Italy. And these conversations and questions transcend questions of gender and politics. I don't believe in that either. I don't believe that it is not a discussion that we get to both form our political beliefs about these really large systems, but also check our assumptions and biases at the door. Who knows? You're not English. I ain't English, brother. There's no. Oh man, they're trying to take us down, brother. Sorry about that. Kind and compassionate in the United States. Good luck. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. Where are you guys from? What are your political issues or stuff? I got to learn about this stuff. Gang, you are Crow. There isn't reform and restores little to prestige left. Prestige left. The whole point of a society is to make sure every person has their needs met. Yeah, that's a fair point. Hey, what's up, UG? Hope you're good today, too. His eyes, they closed, and his last breath spoke. He had seen all to be seen. Doo-doo. Yeah, and so Donald Trump is, this is the weird thing that people don't forget is that trust does matter in science too. I wanted to bring this up because we talked about feminism yesterday, but you don't need to even look at masculinity and feminism. Maybe you do a little bit, but if you're thinking about trust, and so Donald Trump today comes out and says we want to reassess the regulations regarding psychedelics. And so, okay, maybe this is the right thing to do. Maybe it isn't. It's probably the case that our biases about seeing, old Stanley Kubrick movies, or yeah, the stereotypes. You drive by a smoke shop or something and you see, and like rich people see homeless people and they're like, well, I don't totally know how I feel about this, or I haven't thought about my own choices in politics for how I support people with different circumstances in my society. And so, but I don't like, of course, I wouldn't like psychedelics. And so this is Trump's White House meeting, Saturday morning at the lawn of the White House, just casual, no big deal. Joe Rogan's over, no big deal. You got Howard Lutnick is off in the corner, kind of lurking, staring it down. No big deal. Donald Trump is going to be firing on Iranian positions. He celebrated launching missiles at Iran yesterday. No big deal. It's just the Trump brand, right? This is just how we roll here. This is how we do. This is how we do. And so I don't know how you guys feel about psychedelics and mental health, what you guys know about it, but he says I called Dr. Mehmet Oz, I called RFK, I called my health guys that are experts on this. These are the same people that said we don't need vaccines. These are the same people that celebrated, like 1,000 and 10,000x COVID infection rates in the United States. Not little, big, right? That's what happens. That's just one example of that's what happens, And so you get this idea that, well, if Donald Trump is legislating because God's wrath, right? It's either because his personality is so famous, MAGA Republicans, they are so reality, they're so now. It's always framed in this like this imagery of what is possible now, love you, MAGA. It's either that or it's because God is just so powerful. God is so present in the United States. The turning point Charlie Kirk Republican mindset is that, yeah, there's something that is deterministic about how well we're doing our business here. It's none of that, brother. None of that. None of that. There's something deterministic and something which is perhaps fixed or decided about how successful Donald Trump can be. And so this is a thing people don't see, is that if Donald Trump is making like a Middle Earth made up magical brand for psychedelics and he's using fake science, this is not Trump derangement syndrome. This is not Trump derangement syndrome. This is reality that, I don't want US veterans subject to policies and laws, or that you're honestly not concerned that the Bureau of Veteran Affairs, with maybe another 8 years of MAGA, has to follow and abide by the regulations that Donald Trump sets out. This is absolutely absurd. And you're also giving this and framing this in this way to 22, 23, 24-year-old veteran voters, people that are political and are going to vote. And like, the reality is some people will see Joe Rogan and some of the science up there, and they'll forget that there's 10,000, in some cases 10,000, like not 1,000%, 10,000 times, 1,000 times higher COVID infection, higher COVID death rates in the US. And this was Donald Trump's doing. This was Donald Trump's inability to manage that. His hatred, his Christian hatred for science. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, dirty money. I wouldn't disagree with any of the things you said there. I would go look at the study and the research and the context and sort of what I can sort of glean from it. And so, yeah, but when I say I see a remarkable result, I'm wondering where that remarkable result should live. Usually there's sort of a counter argument. It has to be benchmarked against other alternatives and also looked at, with the sort of total cost of it, And so, yeah, I'm not saying if psychedelics are safe, if they're actually safe, they don't produce other symptoms or externalities, or a failure is not that bad, whatever it is, because someone might say, well, if you have severe PTSD or something like this, and this is going to be, you're looking for a very compassionate way to treat that. And you're saying, well, you can use psychedelics, but you also do talk therapy, and it actually takes 12 months, and then that's what you're doing. Who knows? That's a consideration someone should know. There's a lot of considerations: the time it takes, who actually administers this type of treatment, who else you can talk to. It is, if there are political considerations about these types of treatments, when there's something very suitable as an alternative, because you guys can just see that there's like some like fake litmus, like, Tolkien test case where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you're doing, not a, mustache man, not see meth, whatever, some kind of substance or something like this as a alternative treatment, that would never be a sort of like medical consideration. It would never be a medical consideration in the United States or other places. So that's what I think. Hell yeah, brother. This guy's a psyop. Hey, what's going on, WPS? Good to see you. Toxic American MAGA politics is a cancer in the UK. No wonder. Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think people like Tommy Robinson and some other people have forgotten that their actual English identity doesn't give them permission to go hate other people. Like, I don't know why Tommy wouldn't just try to go get laid in Italy or something, right? If you can, go get laid in France or something, right? I don't know. Like, you forgot that this is what the English are capable of doing. You forgot how great you could be. And so, I think people like Tommy Robinson, he floats around the victim card, oh man, well, if I'm here, mate, and I'm here because of all the failures of, now it's Keir Starmer, but prior to this, it was every other Labour person and Labour voter, it was every other, parliamentary person who wanted to get away from the monarchy that kept UK safe. It was every pro-Eurozone person, don't even say Eurozone, let alone the laws and regulations. And yeah, so it's kind of surface level, but yeah, people who are, we want a globalized, connected UK, but we don't want to first talk about UK identity and immigrants. And like, it's this delusional view that you put other, I don't know if it's like his like Tommy Robinson and, the far right in the UK, I won't get too far into it, but it's like, well, are the people actually putting their psychology into the political issues, or they're trying to fit political issues into their psychology? And they're saying, well, this is because, yeah, if you say the world has to be the other way, then I am a victim. In no other sense am I a victim, but it is if the world has to be some other way. Tommy is a grifter who appeals to racist and inadequate. He harnesses popular blame culture, which is funded by MAGA and allegedly Israel. I'll have to come back up. If you feel as though there's a broken stick in your butt and you poop it, it could be hemorrhoids. Okay. The only thing he watches is CNN and MSNBC. That's where he gets information. That's why his ideals are skewed. Toxic American MAGA politics is yeah. Let's see. Let's look at the hey Dylan, can you not, your message got blocked, but can you not attack people in chat? Thank you. Yeah, find something else to engage in if you're still here. Right. Tommy is quite a grifter who appeals to, okay. Hey, what's up? You wanted to talk to Orthodox Muslim youth? Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know where his channel is now, so thank you so much for the sort of like introduction to his channel and the Dawa stuff he's doing. I appreciate it. Yeah. I saw him posting videos attacking Christians and stuff like that. So I get that's what he does, but that's also kind of down a tier for me. That stuff. Sonic EXE girl like me. Hey Jessica, good to see you. Yeah. Shout out. Yeah, we don't have to do politics either, right? That's the other thing is, some people do have a valid, like a cosmopolitan or plural opinion that by not doing politics, by doing things that are respectful to people, and that generally are helping move things in the right direction, in the right way, at the right times, from the right places, and perhaps are skipping and avoiding, they're not afraid, they're not backing off of things like Donald Trump, but they are skipping some of the nonsense that he wants to talk about. They're skipping the anti-scientifical, they're skipping the non-metaphysical, they're skipping the profundity of his fundamental political religion. They're skipping the profundity of the fundamental division and violence he's wishing for people all over the world, right? So these are all bad things. And so when you say, well, a lot of people, if you want to be a video game character and you want to go hang out on Twitch or you want to go hang out on Kick, Rumble, whatever it is, you want to come onto, the Ducks Y channel, you want to share your opinion in chat. Maybe I see it. Someone else will see it though, right? We got 10 people here. You can have a conversation right now with an individual. To me, that's really awesome. And so you're saying, well, okay, well, you're pushing, Donald Trump is pushing scientific and international questions further out. He's pushing the real question further out by steering us incorrectly. And he's doing this for a lot of people. Donald Trump says, I could do this for anybody. And he says, well, what about, shouldn't you hate Vladimir Putin? Shouldn't you hate Chairman Mao? Shouldn't you hate President Xi because of this? Well, no doofus, estúpido. No, I'm in the United States, right? And so you're breaking up the Chicano Mexicano families in Arizona. I already saw this. There's a lot worse stuff, right? You're telling people that these very simple facts that people going down into detention facilities like their Pan's Labyrinth or something like this are too complex of facts in the world to understand. It's too complex to know that there's laws that regulate you losing people. There's laws that regulate you shooting a civilian in the street. The person that shot Alex Preddy, the person that killed that woman driving a car in Minnesota, right? The lawyer that told you you're allowed to deploy U.S. technology and U.S. troops against civilians because they stood up against ICE. These are too complex to understand that there's laws and processes, right? You are not the arbiter of whether or not that was illegal. That's a court system, right? You are not the arbiter of whether or not the Congress gets transparency into these events. And now we also have your war chief. We have your war chief who maybe with your Department of War branding marketing initiative, it's just in the name. This might also be against the Constitution. You seem to have already undertaken a lot of latitude. We should impeach Donald Trump. We should also impeach Pete Hegseth, So you guys can fix me so I'm not such a communist anymore. Guy like me, it sounds like I'm quite the communist. I'm quite the lefty. And then you can also fix Trump because he was chilling with little kids, I think. Refresh your stream. Look at the chat, guys. What's up, Bad Eye Crazy? Good to see you. I like Discord. Had no idea. Heck yeah. Enjoy your content. Subscribe. Thanks, Brian Addington. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. MAGA is a cancer in the U.S. Good news is they're also shrinking. Just hope we as a country can recover from the damage they have done. I think we got this. Stay strong. Yeah, Brian, you sound like a really nice person. And so part of the damage that MAGA's inflicted on U.S. politics is just pulling away from conservative values to celebrate celebrity and celebrate greed. And celebrating an inability to think critically about things that didn't used to be that complex, right? And so with like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, it became the case that, something that you would read simply in a textbook, and then you could look at an entire, like literally, if you wanted to, a 4-foot high pile of papers of evidence of that simple thing you read. You didn't have to be an expert, but you could read it and understand it. Now with MAGA, Trump's Republicans, you can't do a 2 or 3 word Google search, right? That's too much to ask to do a Google search. It's too much to ask if you do meta ethics, to ask if you consider morally the consequences of your actions. Anything that doesn't appeal to Daddy Trump or God, anything that doesn't appeal to Daddy Trump or God, anything that doesn't appeal to violence against someone that doesn't look like you or think or talk like you, anything that isn't violent, God or Trump, is rejected. This is how horrible this MAGA Donald Trump stuff is. And so I have empathy for our friends in Europe. I have empathy for people that have dealt with U.S. incursions, as well as, if you're angry, you want to call it imperialism, but problems that the U.S. has put a lot of other places. I have empathy for that. However, I don't apologize for the United States still, right? There's a case to be made that having a mindset that we are agents of change and that policy produces change, but not like the type we've seen over the years. And also having that mindset that, then we get our scruples because of this, not because of a Donald Trump. To me, that's the battle. That's the battle. And I think there's always a better way to do that. I'm from the United States. I don't mind if you ask if I'm gay or something, but I don't owe you an answer for that at this time. Trump is Jesus. He said he was as much. He's an absolute. He ain't a tree. Donald Trump ain't a tree. He's a person. Yeah. Hey, I'll say this too. For any of my fellow potato commies here in chat, if we're just having a little bit of fun today, not too much, but a little fun. Yeah, Donald Trump deserves respect as a person, but that doesn't mean the pressure he's exerting on American households, the pressure he's exerting on lawmakers, that doesn't mean any of that is worthy or deserving of respect, right? It's very stupid. It's very dumb. Donald J. Trump is a turncoat traitor, best pal with a convicted PDF. He cheated and lied through life. Only fools believe anything he has to say. Yeah, the level of anger that people should have at Donald Trump in the office of the office of the president in the White House, I think should be very high, right? We should be very angry about the stuff Donald Trump has done, but we should also be insistent. A lot of people, I think that if our lack of compassion is blocking us, some people didn't notice that in 2019, Donald Trump started talking about world violence. The day after he elected, he started talking about all the horrible, violent things he wanted to do to people. And he said, this is what a president of peace does. No, it never was, and it never will be. There's nothing that's going to resolve or somehow fix the reality of what Donald Trump actually wished for in the world, And this stupid, dumb idea that, we have to have some special, there has to be some special, white glove, soft committee for MAGA voters for the political and social descriptions, right? So they fit your far right, radical, national Christian worldview is absolutely insane. No, it was insane the first time I heard it, and just like music, right? Like music coming from a jukebox. It's just as insane when I hear it today. Autocratic dictatorship. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, that sounds like some political theory to me. So if you guys are saying I'm asking for a Kamala dictatorship, that's not true. Um, yeah, there is some sense. This is the funny part is there is some sense in a democracy. Yeah, Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson is an embarrassment to YouTube. He's an embarrassment to the digital commons. Um, yeah, so shout out. Yeah, if Andrew Wilson wants to come give me $100, he can. And yeah, but I see him. He's saying mean things about some of my friends, and even if he doesn't like them or disagrees with them, I'll at least stand there and say, I don't like you saying mean things about my friends, buddy. I don't like that. I might not be as smart or strong or as good of a debater as you, but I don't like you saying mean things about my friends. Yeah, and so Benito Mussolini was the expert. He was literally the expert. He's one of the experts about autocratic dictatorships within a fascist society. And so you think of an autocrat being a head, like almost a head, arms, body, making all of the decision. And then you have a dictatorship, meaning that not only can one person make the decision, but anything that is political, social choice is theirs. And then fascist, meaning that the identity, right? So these three components are they don't have to go together, but very important. So you have Benito Mussolini making all the decisions for a society that gives all the decisions up to him. And then it's fascist, meaning that you're not supposed to have an identity that doesn't agree with the system or structure. Alhamdulillah, sorry, I'm working. I don't know how to say that word. Alhamdulillah, right? Praise be to God for this, right? Of course. No, I'm an atheist, but Alhamdulillah, Benito Mussolini teaching us what fascism is and looks like. And so if you put this in the MAGA context, you have MAGA, right? You have MAGA and you've got truly people that can't pay their cable bills. Maybe Google didn't build them fiber internet 5 years ago. And so you have really poor Americans who didn't get a lot of the benefits of technology and stuff like this. But then you have them wishing that Donald Trump would do things that make absolutely no sense in reality, like hiring 100 federal police officers. You guys hate the federal government so much you want Donald Trump to railroad it, or you support Donald Trump tacitly because you have some mythology about the scared white, where's all the danger in our antebellum, our bellish and slightly effeminate society? Where is the danger? Can Donald Trump do something to help it? Are we all pretty like this now? So get out of here. I don't understand any of the language or descriptions or size of things, the scope of things. If we can create something that is nothing like Benito Mussolini, nothing like Europe in the 20th century, and nothing like the United States following World War II with a lot of our witch hunts, political sentiment, which is both anti-Black nationalism, but also anti the conversation. There's a sweet middle ground somewhere in there. There's a sweet, sweet middle ground that could make your life better, could benefit other people. And, if you have to gamble on something, I would say you can gamble on that. That's at least a really fair starting point, because I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot saying that, hey, MAGA folks, you could do a little better than this. Rat Utopia. Hey, Rat Man Utopia, let's go. The Republicans refuse to listen to anyone. When the bill passed today, it was a good thing. Well, the bill he passed today was this. You're talking about the psychedelic, the LSD thing. I don't know how you would say that. If you were letting like a con artist write your mortgage for you, you were letting a scam artist write your mortgage. Someone like Bernie Madoff is able to now write your investment product for you. And you say, well, the investment product is a good thing because it's still Bernie Madoff, right? I still had this pre-existing Stockholm Syndrome idea Bernie Madoff was good. Hey, no, it's not. No, it isn't today, of course, the guy was a scam artist and a thief then, and so he's a scam artist and a thief now, right? He should be banned from doing this. At least mentally, from my point of view, he should be banned. If there's a law that bans people from it, okay, prohibiting people from holding public office, prohibiting people from trading securities. And so Mehmet Oz says that, like Donald Trump, I can be a famous TV broadcaster, famous TV personality. Just like Donald Trump, RFK says, I can run scams on the side, lie to families, lie to mothers, lie to fathers. I can let mothers who want money and fathers who want money, I can let them be as smart as they want in their own head, but I go become a thief. I become a thief and I take from this, because of this, I will travel all 50 states. I will find the smartest people I can. And it's not like I'm some New York wise guy, but I will go become a thief and a fraud anywhere I can because of this. What a load of nonsense. What a load of nonsense. There should be deterrents in place in society to take on bad scientific advice. And there are. You have the internet, you have licenses for medical practice. Those people have to buy medical insurance. So you have to have some barrier to entry. You have to have you have to have your sort of residency and all this other stuff in like legitimate medical schools. All this stuff is true, right? All this stuff is true. But RFK is not qualified to give medical advice. RFK is not qualified to give medical advice. The reality of all this is that, yeah, if you want people to be comfortable in taking money, Donald Trump is actually tearing down these things like people that actually care about their patients, people that care only about the health outcomes. A good doctor would say, I don't care about, any of this other stuff. I just give you advice on the medicine. If you can't afford it or something else, whatever. And so I don't know how you say, when Donald Trump is using lawsuit tactics, when Donald Trump is using irrelevant facts from his previous career, he's using a cell phone Rolodex instead of medical research to do everything. No, the bill that passed today wasn't good. Donald Trump isn't a medical doctor. MAGA Republicans are saying a limited government controls your health choices. A limited government that has previously failed to keep you safe from health risks, right? You don't want to accept that. That's completely stupid. Okay, go look at the trees. Go look at the trees, please. Thank you. Look at the trees. I'm so sorry. Thank God for Donald J. Trump. Tell me what you're figuring out. When you say thank God for Donald Trump, what are you figuring out today that's new? What are you figuring out today that's relevant or coherent? I don't think it's anything. Lawsuit tactics, what are you even smoking? Yeah, so this is Joshua. I think this is Josh Kelly's inability to do a Google search, right? It's so funny when you're MAGA Republican, the facts just don't matter, right? Now you know how I feel, right? Coming from the annals of big cities, small cities, rural trailer parks. Now you know how I feel, right? You don't have you're on a smartphone, but you don't have access to Google to actually go look anything up. And so what? Donald Trump literally had Joe Rogan presenting a bill that is about your health. And this is for social health and patient outcomes because veterans are going to trust Joe Rogan or something like this, right? This is the country bumpkin logic. It's sort of funny because I recall veterans get to put things through the VA, right? I recall that there are people that are like them. Joe Rogan isn't like you. If you're a veteran with severe PTSD, no offense, hang out here as long as you want or it's useful for you. I'm not a veteran. I don't have severe PTSD. But Joe Rogan isn't like you at all. And so, this is the stuff. Joshua Kelly's own opinion, creating his own conversation, wanting someone to pull up shame tactics or getting into a debate is more important to you than actually getting the right information out there. To me, that doesn't make sense. And no, personally, I won't shut up about it. Did you just say you have PTSD? It's none of your business if I have PTSD or not. It's none of your business if I have PTSD. It's none of your business what I've gone through, what I haven't gone through. It's none of your business. Look, I got shoes and stuff behind me. It's none of your business that, I couldn't afford groceries last week. None of that is any of your business to know about, right? And this is the thing is Donald Trump wants to say, well, hey, go tell now there's the next Donald Trump justification. Fake ass Charlie Kirk BS, there's the next thing then, right? Yeah, it must be TDS, we'll come up with justification after justification for allowing someone who allowed 1000x, 1,000, not 100% more, not 200% more, not 2x, not 3x, 1,000 times COVID infection rates, COVID deaths in the United States. This guy's giving, and the justification is that you can tell a guy like Joe Rogan you have PTSD. You can say anything to Joe Rogan. You can say anything to the guy. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? His path, his journey, super coherentist way of saying something like that. What Joe Rogan's gone through talking to flat earthers for the last 10 years and making $3 million off Spotify. You know what, Josh? You can just get out of my chat room forever. This is the thing that MAGA loves doing is when MAGA clowns and MAGA trolls, when they're doing trollish, clownish behavior, and when in reality, I put like a tongue-in-cheek. If you guys refresh the chat, you'll see I put a tongue-in-cheek message here. Fix me so I'm not a communist. And the other side of this is also fix Trump because he's chilling with widow wampuses. I put this stuff out here, but the thing that, a lot of the people on the side of the internet that side with Donald Trump want to do is they say, well, a big, strong wampus man like Joshua, or a big strong wampus man like my alt accounts, and I'm just like all these other big strong men, right? I'm so mature. But what they're actually doing is they're saying, well, I don't care if you're in the US, you're not too dumb to follow orders and instructions, soldier. That's how that works. I never thought that's how that worked. You're too dumb to do a Google search, but you're not too dumb to learn about Asia from me. You're not too dumb to learn about Pakistan from me, right? I'm an expert. I'm an expert on Iran. I'm Charlie Kirk. Was Charlie an expert on Iran? Was Charlie an expert on Iran? What did he learn? What did he say? No, I'm actually curious. Because you got Donald Trump suggesting we follow Pete Hegseth's order for the Department of War, and then we go give our troops psychedelic mushrooms after following these command structures and after killing fishermen, no big deal, of course. No big deal for you, buddy. You've got the perfect schema set up because you made that choice. But go follow the powerful people. No, you can get out of my chat, right? People can think for themselves. You can think critically. You can do research. You can say, hey, if I'm not willing to do research, I'm willing to have an honest conversation. But people who take all the attention and put it on themselves because they say, well, these young folks don't know how to do this. You don't get more Donald Trump out of it. So let me go put it on the big streamers, the big smart talkers. No, get out of my chat room, right? There's people here. You guys can be reading these chats. Most of the people that are here want to have interesting conversations. Wish I could read everything you have to say. Just want to help. It helps to talk about it. What gave you PTSD? Here you go. I think you're also out of the chat, right? Adios, buddy. Do something creative instead of rage baiting. You may get more views. Cool. Thank you. Kool-Aid drinker. Now I want some coffee. I want Daddy Wampus coffee. All right, guys, let's have a conversation. I think we're ready to get started here. I have a first-class honors degree in English language. I think it requires an elevated brain to process truth. Yeah, that's interesting. An elevated brain. I think that anyone can. So my own and I don't mean to impose my beliefs on you or my hyper masculine view of this, but I think anyone can find truth. But I also think that truth is usually meant to be a truth-seeking behavior. If I say something honest, like nicotine is calming, nicotine is something I do as a bad habit. And also I know that to me, eating fruits and vegetables is a healthier choice. Well, that's true, but that's also not cosmically true. It's probably true for 90% of people, but it's also not, that means it's not cosmically true. And I can contextualize those two facts, but I still don't have some unfounded truth or something like that. And so when people come into chat and they say, well, I have 100%, hey, I have 100% belief about Donald Trump, 100% buddy, 100% buddy. I have 100% belief about Donald Trump, buddy. And it's okay, cool. Well, no, because that's not possible, right? You don't know what a Bayesian inference is, so you don't have a word for it. You also don't You also, who knows, your mom and dad were bigoted or racist towards other world religion and spiritual beliefs. So your version, your truncated, smaller version of Christianity gave you a license to have absolute faith and absolute truth. But because of this, you are cutting off compassion and empathy towards all these other things. And I can't prescribe that this is what you did, because who knows? Maybe it's more important that just like you, I compete to have nice vegan hamburgers. I compete to have nice clothes. I compete to have sunglasses. And I try personally to put my own sense of selfishness, my own, like I've got 15-foot vaulted ceilings in my studio bedroom here. This is like a spare bedroom too, right? I'm a rich guy, used to be. And so I can put all the stuff that I got going on for me in reality, none of these sort of fake false perceptions, and push that stuff out to try to find a more equitable, fair, charitable, deliberative, and compassionate form of politics and culture. That's my goal. So you are rich. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that big of a celebrity or something like that. You don't need to know. The whole point of the channel is politics. It's politics. If you guys want to talk art or something like this, you guys want to actually talk about the idea of business, of capitalism, how you start an effective multi-level marketing scheme. Did you inherit money from colonization or colonization? I don't know what type of question that is. Are you asking if colonization enriched the United States? It gave control of resources. So colonization wasn't about cheap manufacturing as much as it was about control of primary production. Yeah. And so there's a very straightforward, justice-oriented and common sense-oriented interpretation. There's a geopolitical interpretation. There's also a geopolitical interpretation. The US being economically efficient, but being energy inefficient, like that's a huge, huge topic. And for people that want to jump to the top of the politics mountain, if you want that, think in those terms, Okay, so, if you go and spend $50 on Wall Street, you buy a Vanguard ETF, that money is going to go through the entire US economy 50 times or 100 times by the end of the week, by the end of the year. That's incredibly efficient, but you also know that you're going to have, in order to do that, you're going to be using petroleum derivative products, which are non-renewable. You're going to be polluting the oceans. So this creates a commons problem. You're going to be polluting the air. This creates a commons problem. You are directly responsible for some extent of the polar ice caps decaying and dying. That's like existential and a commons problem. You're also going to be pertaining to colonialism. In some sense, you do this because you historically have fueled conflicts in Southeast Asia. You have fueled conflicts in Central or Sub-Saharan Africa. You've fueled conflicts in the Middle East, even if they won't admit it. You have fueled conflicts in Latin, right? Your European trading partners colonized Latin America before you did, And so the US doesn't come in until the 19th century and say, well, now we have the Monroe Doctrine. You are going to have no foreign influence on this entire side of the world. And so, yeah, but you can not go too far and you have that. Do you have a bipolar illness? Well, he said in the past, I'm worried about him. You're rich, nothing about economics. Hey, chaotic, was that to me? And Matthew, was that to me? Were those questions for me? The Z blankets, word salads. None of this was word salad. If you guys need to sort some of this out in your head, why don't you try to make sense of your social, political, and animal brain, right? Can't we do that? All right. All right. Let's see. Colonialism, such an old left talking point. Yeah, it's not really collectivist, right? Because if I can challenge that and say, well, there's individualistic and selfish reasons to reject colonialism. one of the reasons being is that somebody, okay, so if I want to, maybe I'm an engineer and I want to make renewable asphalt or something, right? I want to make asphalt that lasts longer, that uses bio sources in production. It doesn't decay. So maybe I look at different molecular structures that live in plants, or something like this, right? Maybe not, but I look at molecular structures that live in plants and say, well, some of these things can transform into something that is more quiet. It lasts longer. But then you look at colonialism and you say, well, asphalt actually comes from tar pits still. And so the US controls and buys governments in order to build roads. And in other cases, you have materials engineering being outsourced. Your dirtiest, messiest factory is outsourced to a poor country where it's cheaper to produce, and then you ship it over here. And so these are two aspects of colonialism that impact the actual person that you would want working on that problem. You should just want that person working on the problem. And an ideal solution, which you're allowed to say, you're allowed to believe in something more ideal than whatever you see on Fox News or on MSNBC, right? MSNBC, I agree, is an absolute smut rag. But you're allowed to say, well, the smart person should be able to get in and work on these problems the same way as somebody who has a solution right now, right? Expediency, convenience, the speed by which you can get something done isn't an excuse to not be ethical. And itself it has political connotations. It has political norms associated with it. So and I've been to these chatty episodes right before burnouts. Hey, what's going on, Sly? Hey, what's up, Brenda Kittles? Are you a mod on the channel? You're a mod on the channel. And so you're doing a lot of things. You're gaslighting psychology. Right? That's not I've got no interest in knowing how or why you decided to do that, right? But you're asking me to put it into you, right? So you don't think, you think you're positively affecting or influencing the average viewers experience on the channel in some sense, right? You think that there's some form of argument or discussion or debate that benefits from you offering opinions about people's psychology. But see, you're going to go do that on other channels too, Brenda, I believe. Right? I didn't say I know more than the president. I said I disagree with everything the president has to say. I do think the president's an idiot. I also think I'm an idiot, but you didn't ask that, right? You assumed out here because MAGA Donald Trump wants you to, or because, I don't know, I've got no clue, because your belief and view of people in the world wants you to do this. And so I don't need someone telling me to enjoy my coffee and cigarettes. I don't need someone to tell me that I skip those things, right? You're not a mother, you're not a parent, right? So if you're apparently not a parent and you're apparently not qualified to be doing what you're doing right now, you don't need to be doing that. It's just funny, if you guys were able to be a little more quiet from time to time, you would see that other people are talking right now, right? Send me $100. I don't care. I actually don't care at all. That's the part that you guys don't understand. Everybody's got to start their landscaping business and go get up from Big Brother not giving them high-speed internet and giving them dinosaurs and textbooks. Hey, that's not how you solve it. Yeah, doesn't look like there are any mods here. This is a guy who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. You know what, WPS, thank you so much. I appreciate you a bunch, but I think you also need a 24-hour break from the channel. So take care, dude. You got to be a special kind of stupid to believe anything the orange buffoon has to say. Yeah, if people don't want to invest time understanding where Donald Trump's views fit in geopolitics, they don't have to, right? This is maybe a charitable or equitable or political and social academic way of saying this, that there is a way to understand what Donald Trump, the orange buffoon, has to say. And yeah, Donald Trump is, saying he's an orange buffoon is a way to capture that his policies don't relate to a more peaceable, a more efficient world. They don't relate to democratic goals. They don't relate to authoritarian goals. They relate to a personality. They relate to a personality who has a special, some sort of special, like a special worldview that's never existed. He's teaching the world how to take facts and information and data and just not use it at all. Like literally not used at all. You know, someone who is good at being loud, but he's not good at being quiet. There was a Brenda a few minutes ago. I think he's talking to Brenda. I don't think I was. I think Trump is an immoral pig clown. I think, yeah, I'll leave that one back there. Hey, of course, you speak idiot, and then you can mentalize with Trump. I'm not that interested. You know, I do a lot of MAGA streams, but I prefer talking about science topics. I prefer talking about religion. I prefer having not debates, but fair discussions about stuff, learning what other people think, learning what other, yeah. And so I'm joining this live from Dubai. Hey, shout out Hassan85. Cheers to you in Dubai. Hopefully you're having a great day. Appreciate you. I'm here in the United States, Southwest Arizona. We're getting into our summer months, so it's going to be hotter, like 100 plus Fahrenheit. I don't know what it is, but I believe Dubai also has those temperature swings. So shout out to you. Hopefully you're having a good time. I thought you was an atheist. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, I can be an atheist or a Buddhist and also have truth system. I can personally have truth systems and other faiths and worldviews. I can say that, well, you know, I can see how people justify Qurans and surahs producing a form of truth. I can justify how people see the Torah producing a truth. I can justify how you think Plotinus or Plato produces a truth. Even though none of these things in 2026 should be true, it's still interesting to talk about, and maybe it's useful. And yeah, who knows? Maybe there is some universe where some of these things were perennially or universally true. We're all Baha'i now, right? We're all part of the digital, universal, everything is merged and unified in the universe type deal. Arizona is awesome. Yeah, Arizona is very cool. Trump to crank it says Kennel Weekly. A stunt, says Vatican. Oh man, Krokog, if you want to get into how, you know, Donald Trump and Tom Homan claiming to be Catholic, claiming to when the Pope isn't even speaking for the Vatican, he's like speaking, like saying like, well, look, if you were a sophomore in college, you know, you should be able to appreciate and recognize there's both moral and practical truths, and that, yeah, the Catholic faith rejects obviously these blanket threats against hundreds of millions of people around the world. You know, and then so Tom Homan turns up and says, well, you know, if I was a good Catholic schoolboy, I'd want to be teaching people about, I want to teach people about how to hurt and dunkus on 100 million people around the world. That doesn't exist anywhere, bro. That doesn't exist anywhere, you freaking monk, you know, whatever. Do you believe in a higher power in the universe? I don't know, maybe. I believe that humans are, I think a safe way to say that is that humans are an organism of organisms who are not at the top of, even if we're at the top of the food chain because of our brains, we're not at the top of the survival pyramid over long periods of time for any reason. And so that's one truth. And then I think the truth to me that is underneath this is that, yeah, well, life on Earth has existed for billions of years. And so to imagine that there's no magicalism or no sense that it works in a different way than we immediately understand is way different. Yeah, and so I do think nature is sort of like an alien. I think it's okay to see a little magic in things we don't understand and to see it like a higher power. And then I also think it's perfectly acceptable to believe that old human religions, old human faith and ideas that are beyond us maybe do have an end point. They extend to a point that's like a god or a religion. You know, they extend to a point that's like a god or a religion. No, I would consider myself a Gnostic atheist. I believe that experiencing life deeply reasoning within the systems that we're thinking about and talking about, produces a natural worldview where there is no vertical causality, right? There is no system where a cause is extended to the supernatural. You know, and I think that's at least a satisfactory, even if it's not a very modern view. It's not a theory of everything view, but it's pretty close. You look insane, get help. Hey, what's up, Scaredy Wolf? Thank you for the kind words. Just giving you a heads up, I'm banning people from the channel today. We're all happy if you want to subscribe and try again tomorrow. I can give you a timeout. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your opinions and your beliefs. And if you have something to contribute in a slightly more productive or on-topic way, yeah, you'll be deeply appreciated for that. Ain't nobody down at the bottom, highest, whatever part of the pyramid that you want to be on. And so thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. Dude, you got it. Your brain yesterday, honestly, got to give it to you. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't need you to tell me that. I don't know why that's one of the opinions or things you think about for yourself or other people, but thank you. You look like you need to educate yourself on Trump. All right, go for it. Why don't you go for it? Because I believe I was reading your statements or comments, right? I was reading your statements or comments, like a person on YouTube does, right? You're obviously chatting so me or someone else can, yeah, kick idiots from chat so we can't talk, yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it deeply. Scaredy Wolf, you've come in and now we're at like 60 seconds and you haven't said something. None of the chat, right? Not you personally, but the chats that you've been putting, I do think, by and large, my opinion is that some of those messages distract more, right? If you want to generically educate us on Donald Trump, don't exert pressure like that, right? Don't exert pressure with an assumption or something like this. And I'm not telling you not to do that, right? I don't care personally. It's just the case that, yeah, tell us what you've read. Tell us what you've read recently or whatever. What? I think bots are just trashing YouTube. I feel bad for picking on you a few days ago. Hey, I don't mind, right? Yeah, the divine, this is my feminism, is the divine feminine form of the universe or whatever excuses we push up can have that conversation, right? So, but anyways, being able to yeah, here's something Donald Trump can't do in politics, right? When there's implications in politics, the implication is that Donald Trump can't move into something and then back away from it, right? Because it really doesn't matter. It's very stupid. And a lot of times people will find that the same things that kids learn in school, how to be social, kids learn how to move forward with their own life, even by the time you're 16 or 17, you get your first job. These are all very stupid things that people learn how to do, right? And you're supposed to look a little crazy while you're talking about it, I guess. And with Donald Trump can't pull back from campaign promises. He can't pull back from promises he makes that are impossible in the world. And MAGA voters say, well, we hate the United States and we are so based on a period of hatred and how to get things done that, we can't pull back from our hatred. That's not how you get that. That's not how you do that. And it's very stupid because ultimately, the end goal is, even if you are living in Omaha, Nebraska in a small house, or you're living in Boise, Idaho, you want to be like Mark Andreessen. You want to be like Elon Musk. You want to be like Mark Cuban. You not want to be like Barbara Corcoran. You want to be like rich, successful men and women. I saw this McKinsey consultant. She had on LinkedIn 18,000 connections, 18,000 followers and connections, and she hadn't posted a single original piece of content. But she was publishing on the McKinsey blog, and so people would look up her profile and follow it. Who knows? Maybe she will say something. Maybe she will say something on here. This isn't a joke. So someone who's never, you can picture an account on social media which has never posted with 18,000 connections and followers, 18,000 subscribers. And so with like Donald Trump and MAGA, when we talk about here's how we get things done or something like this, here's how we get things done, right? Oh, the profundity. I'm going to hire 100,000 police officers so we have more arrest records. I want to hire 100,000 Dinkus uniform police Leo so we have more arrest records. I want to hire 100,000 Dinkos to go Dinko all the Dinko stuff that some other guy isn't smart enough to go Dinko with, but this Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, they can go Dinko all the Dinkos all the time. This ain't Dinkus stuff. Hire 100,000 people to get 100,000 output. This is the brilliancy of MAGA, right? The brilliancy of MAGA Republican Party is even someone who wants to be critical of this, they're overtalked then by Randy Mark Wayne Mullen. They're overtalked by Kristi Noem. They're overtalked by Pete Hegseth. They're overtalked by Fox News. They're overtalked by Fox News's up-and-coming anchors. Here's your country bumpkin reporter of the day. Oh, well, I don't like to hear that. So you're right that this is how we get things done. You don't think I'm going to stand up and defend my family? No, your family can be stood up and defended by going and getting an associate's degree, going and getting a bachelor's of science. I have a U.S. American political science degree, and I'm goddamn proud, and I will, roll over in my own grave prior to seeing that degree not put to use to try and argue and fight for and produce the ideas that are going to produce world peace, that are going to produce equity, that are going to produce shared wealth, that are going to produce a civilization that exists and coexists with nature, a civilization that coexists with religious and secular traditions. I will roll over in my own grave prior to that. Where are you at? Where are you at? MAGA mom, MAGA dad? Where are you? You're a MAGA mom. You're a MAGA dad. You're an American mom. You're an American dad. No, I'm a parent. I'm also MAGA. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're saying that I had to stand up because people were saying mean things about the trailer park. I don't care. You can skip past the first 20 years of my life because there's 20 years after that. You want that one too, don't you? Right? You want excuses. No, you don't want to be judged. Well, that's okay. I don't actually care, right? That is what a reasonable tempered person says, is that, well, us fighting and arguing isn't going to produce any type of new solution. And so, I really don't see this guy standing up and fighting for me. I don't see it the way I see it. Says the person who is locking up and deporting 19-year-old. You guys want to put 19-year-old girls in new federal detention centers with 100,000 recently newly hired male guards. And you don't think it's a big deal when they can't find them. You don't think it's a big deal when they don't listen to the judges. You don't think it's a big deal when Congress doesn't get to ask questions. Do you know how absurd that is? It's insane. I think people in any country, I don't believe in isolating identity like that, saying most of the Hughes, right? Most people who are what? Most people who follow the Jewish faith, most people who are Jewish atheists, most people who have Israeli citizenship. What do you actually mean, right? Most people who have some form of legal protections from anti-Semitic speech in some countries. Most what? Right? And so most people can just stand up and reject, totally deny, bad news reporting that promotes conflict, bad news reporting that doesn't treat people with respect, bad news reporting that assumes people are as sort of materially minded or as stupid in the first place. Whatever. MAGA's trying to save America from the crazy nut jobs. All right, let's get off that topic just a little bit. I don't know. Was I talking about that? Sorry, guys. I'm getting distracted a little bit. Can't agree with Democrats because the children, both sides do wars. Yeah, Shai, the only thing I would say regarding that is that if you read the literature, every single individual paper is based on acute and severe cases, um, which are evidenced by the human phenotype, right? So it's not just these doctors saying, well, we can go research trans issues, or either body dysmorphia or right, body dysmorphia or something else. But also when we actually look at phenotypical, genetic, or genomic sort of expression in humans, there is an explanation, right? There's not something that just goes to a black hole of like homeopathy or I should say the vortexes, right? There's nothing useful here. There's nothing good or useful here in a scientific sense, in a sense that is molecular, that is biological, because like molecular chemistry or biochemistry still supports this genetic view, right? So there's a very rich space that this stuff comes from. And basically you say, well, yeah, somewhere hidden in that, when we see these acute and severe cases, there is a disease such as there is a disease that isn't itself, not identifying socially with a gender, but it is when it's the case that when your physical and mental symptoms associated with the idea that you don't feel comfortable, become acute, this is basically just what the psychological research is. So it's not actually true that there's just like a type or breed or brand of Democrat in the political sense that is saying, go give puberty blockers and this like this, right? A Democrat can't just go do that. And there's also not a Republican then, right? By the same token, in logical terms, there's not a Republican that is like that is fighting against transing the trans, because what they're disagreeing with is what they're trying to rope around is personal subjective opinions, and they're also avoiding the fact that this is what science and medical research is based upon. So we disagree politically. We also disagree with the description. And I think, yeah, both of those are interesting conversations and discussions. I think there's people in Washington, like the Human Rights Campaign and like people that have taken on, health issues, who fight for this stuff more than I do. Maybe I'm at the end of it. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool way to say it, Shai. Yeah, science would tend to agree that if there are, whatever the correct, term is or something, but if there's, like non-deterministic, phenotypes or something like this in terms of how we define and categorize sex, yeah, that may be different than a political or social identity, a personal identity of like being trans or something. I don't know. So no astrology. I'm not a big astrologer. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, I guess, if people want to talk about that stuff, but I don't know. I don't know that much about it. Yeah, I can't really say. Thanks everybody for liking the stream. If anybody wants to subscribe, feel free. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're grifting for gifted memberships. I want to go fix all the emoticons. So if anybody wants to gift 5 or 10 memberships, give everybody here a membership, that would be super cool. Oh, let's get rich and buy our parents' homes in the south of France. Let's get rich and build everybody nice sweaters and teach us how to dance. Let's get rich and build a house on a mountain, making everybody look like ants. So you up high, you and high, you and high. I was personally born in the same year as Taylor Swift, 1989, dude. Yeah. What is a Capricorn? Is that like a Capricorn? A Capra sun? What do you think's better, communism or democracy? Yeah, I believe in limited government still. I believe that people should be forced to In some points, systems are going to support human nature when we look at just how humans act over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's the most fundamental truth that a person has. I think communism is this sort of idea that it's just too expensive. It's too hard to convince people to go to school to study something that makes you ethical. I think communism is also this idea that, well, because these are such hard, expensive questions and we're so prone to fighting, well, follow Karl Marx, right? Get the people out that tell you. Communism says get the people out that are going to make this even more difficult than it has to be. And I don't agree with all of that, Part of this is in the Western Hemisphere. All of our shared history of nation building and social development has been based on this idea that, well, guess what? The city where you have what in Jesus's terms, you have the naked, the hungry, the poor, the drug addicts, the prostitutes, but the city is where you learn to become an ethical person. You may not like the outcome of this, but this is where it happens. And you are going to be sitting next to a historian, a PhD in a cafe, or you're going to be sitting next to a dietitian, or you're going to be sitting next to someone who's been loaning and lending small businesses money for 20 years, right? You're going to be sitting next to a clothing designer or high fashion designer, any of these things. These are all things that you could be doing. And so what does communism say about this? In the United States, we didn't stop at Pennsylvania and we didn't stop at Washington. George Washington is not cosmically important in the United States. Once you know George Washington's story, he's a guy who had a really bad time in the military, and he said, hey, well, the goal shouldn't be to be defending small American goals, but at some point we just have to produce the sort of logical competitive outcome that we have our own borders and our own culture. And everybody recognizes this. And so saying that, well, communism responds to both sides of this problem, both the culture, and then it also responds to the people and stuff involved, go to the bar, get a drink, baby. Go to the bar, get a drink, sip it up, sip it up, sip it up, spell it out, spell it out. We gon' read Karl Marx and we gonna just crip walk our way. So suddenly magically communism is the system that we want to adopt in the United States. I don't think that's true. However, to be fair and honest and truthful as well, when we say that, well, liberalism has to reach its final state as a dialectic in order for it to evolve, this is different than saying, well, just schools, just cities, just neighborhoods, just appreciating global communities, just YouTube, this stuff, whatever. I'm going to get really preachy about that, but I think we can say, hey, look, I am comfortable taking less and all this other stuff. People may not like it, but whatever. I'm a crazy person. That's right. Greg has obviously been ignored his whole life. Kind of sad. Hey, I feel that. Oh, let's get rich and buy our parents' homes in the south of France. Dingus says, Dux, you're a socialist. I frick with you. Hey, sorry, I just saw that comment. Yeah, I don't mind democratic socialism. I want to see, because I'm doing more political commentary and I'm more of a political theorist, right? So I like reading stuff like this, like social contract research and stuff like this. So like I want to see AOC be successful in Washington. I want to see her bring gains back in conversations around the country. I want to see Bernie Sanders having a strong voice, coming out front with the topic that he wants. But just because I believe in the types of conversations that someone like AOC or Bernie Sanders wants to have, or that Zohran Mamdani wants to have, this also doesn't mean that suddenly I don't support other progressive Democrats who maybe are willing to go 4 or 8 or 12 years if it produces the sort of responsibility that we need, So it doesn't mean I don't believe in a limited government either. Yeah. And so if I'm so you guys can fix me up on this over time, who knows, maybe one day I will go back to wearing a Karl Marx shirt, or I'll go back to talking about I.M. Pencil and Adam Smith. I'll go back to talking about, David Ricardo, people that challenged him. Of course, who's my favorite guy? Let me let me see if I can find this. Let's get rich and build a house on the mountain. Yo, though. I'm getting like absolutely stream froze trying to look this stuff up right now. Protectionist. Yeah, what happened? Mercantilism, protectionism. Raul Prebisch. Raul Prebisch was the one I wanted to introduce people to. He's an Argentinian guy. Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal though, everyone. I'm gonna post a link real quick. I gotta post this link. I don't know what it is, but it's whatever. Let's get rich and build a house on the mountain, making everybody look like ants. Whatever. Yeah. So this idea, is basically that communism or protectionism supports is that, well, if I sell you the stuff to make a house and then you want to sell it back to me, that doesn't work forever, right? That doesn't work forever. Comparative advantage doesn't cover it. Trade advantages, sort of equity doesn't exist there. And so let me, I just wanted to drop this down, but if you guys want to click that link or whatever, Raul Prebisch is one of the very interesting guys first coming up with this sort of idea, this way of thinking. Raul Prebisch. Yeah. So let me, I'll go ahead and pin this one up. Go ahead and pin this one up, dog. Replace pinned message. Let's go. Yeah, innovation is a big topic. This one goes to, German economists. Yeah, mostly, I believe, German economists in the 19th and early 20th century who said, well, look, the real reason Germany and other places lost power and control, the real reason that democracy wasn't successful in these places was because it wasn't because of Karl Marx, but it was because you put too many rules on businesses. You started putting too many rules, and then people like Donald Trump and people like Adolf Hitler said, well, you need more rules, right? You need more rules. If you're not Howard Lutnick making Rumble and taking Rumble public, or you're not Patrick Bet-David and you're selling MAGA thermoses, you're not selling these little far-right little tokens and symbols and icons in your business, you're not a real businessman, right? You're not a real businessman. But these guys said something else. They said, yeah, you want to make your employees happy. You want to do new things. You want to be more efficient. You don't want to be the last one in either. You're still profit motive seeking. And so you start taxing, you start taking all of people's money. You also start ordering how people are going to work all the time. And this stops innovation. So a good comparison, Iran, everybody can go get a college education. In theory, everybody gets a free college education, really high quality education. I've never talked to a But then you go to work and the government's going to take half of your paycheck. The government's going to take half of your money once you make $1,000. Okay, and so some people say, well, look, that is partially because of international pressures. It's for all of these reasons. And I get it. However, this is if it's undecided and uninformed, even if I don't have a moral reason right away that, the government can't tax half your paycheck, because that isn't metaphysics, that's money. It is money, it is not metaphysics. Then at some point I want to solve this using economics, my own preference or bias, but whatever, who knows? I don't know. Hell yeah. Yeah, no Rothschild Bank. Dude. Yeah. Without the magic tar pit, right? The magic tar pit and the magic carpet rides, At some point, you're going to have magical Wizards of Wall Street or magical racism operating out in the world, magical, right? At some point, this is the crazy part. You're not allowed to know about quantum computers, because if you know about a quantum computer, or you know about the fastest car on Earth, then you only want those things. You no longer want the lie. You no longer want the deep state controlling you, bro. I don't know. Whoa, dude. My name is Duck. I do not like to breathe on stream. My name is Duck. I like sneakers and shoes, yo, bro. Dude. Brian, I'm sure you have a video game you need to play. No, dude. Hey, what up, crew? Good to see you here, homie. We got crew chilling. We got crew. Daddy chill, homie. Hopefully you're having a good day, brother. Crew is part of the crew. Crew is homie crew, right? You can effectively get timed out by Hizzle and then come back. That's the truth. So, no, I know. I feel so bad. I feel so bad about not creating free speech platforms, about hiding people, kicking people off, about just the fact that I'm such a bad content creator that I can't even get it up to the point where more people can enjoy the types of conversations and discussions that we're able to have here. I feel so bad about that stuff, dude. Yeah, I'm a snowflake. No, you guys can't even be criticizing each other. I'm up here being the snowflake. I'm up here being the guy that you can just see freaking out, freaking the F out because I can't figure out my own life, dude. You guys don't know how bad this gets, dude. Just to be totally honest. Himanshu the Descent, I'm so sorry. Hey, also Shy, see you later. Thanks so much for hanging out. Sorry if I missed anybody messages, any hellos, goodbyes, any interesting stuff I should have read and responded to for everyone else. I'm so sorry about that. But Himashu, let me go check. I didn't see your message, so I can easily go check down here. You said, hello, brother. There's been a rise in more people in Europe are leaving developed country like America. What do you think about it? I think people leaving nationalism as well as not wishing to have the same sort of economic or social schemas anymore is it's a rushed response. And yeah, ultimately, maybe one way of saying it is that people that think they're producing a change by voting against the system that they're in, this is what a conservative is. This is like Edmund Burke. But you're not really doing that, right? In the United States, you can vote against big tech, but you still are going to have IBM. They're going to go to another country or continent to build computer chips and quantum computers then, right? And so to me, the more responsible response is saying, okay, well, the United States isn't the most efficient economy, but we also have the ability, without the help of the masses and without the plebeians, to go do the thing we want to do. Right? Go do the thing that someone else is going to do eventually. And so I think when you have a revolution, you're going to end up building back the same system in the first place, right? There's no magical sorry kids, time to grow up. Unk, this is actual Unk Duck, the actual Unk of the digital commons here, is that if you want to destroy the thing you have to rebuild it back different, it's going to start looking exactly like the old system, because you never fixed the problem in the first place. You never fixed whatever problem you had in the first place. And that's okay. That's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to not know how to do that. It's not okay to not know how to describe it. Oh, thank you, Pepsi fan. Thank you so much. We got a super chat for $2. Awesome, Pepsi fan. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for the $2. That's awesome. I love the channel support, guys. It's so weird. I just got monetized, a week ago or so. It's been about a week. And so it's super cool to see financial support coming across the channel. And yeah, everything helps. That's awesome. A little to get some new material. You are doing a great job and keep trying. Soon the stream will be better. Hey, I'm trying to. Hopefully for a lot of people, I want to see all other different content creators successful, but I also want to see impact, that's kind of annoying. If I'm in the politics space, kind of the annoying, stupid, little small creator thing that is like, yeah, people, yeah, whatever. I don't need to talk about that right now. Hey, thank you, Chris. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Every stream's a little bit different. Sometimes we get a little absurd, a little crazy, but I try to do politics stuff pretty consistently and stuff like that. So, yeah. I personally think that people can have political beliefs that are coherent a little bit, but who knows? Some people that, I think people can at least think about, serious politics and other stuff. I don't think MAGA Donald Trump wants everybody to believe that their political beliefs are serious, but it is dead serious when he's going to war in Iran. It's dead serious when we're thinking about like nuclear modernization in France, or what's at stake. What's actually at stake? What's actually at stake is nuclear non-proliferation, right? It's non-proliferation and disarmament, And so saying that, well, humans living under a flag don't have an opinion about this, that's absolutely absurd, right? And that's big dog politics. And people can also just make the choice and say, well, hey, that's one of the things I'll look out for. One of the things I'll think about is whether or not someone like Donald Trump is making the world a safer place, not just a more peaceful place. Is the world safer because of Donald Trump? Hell no, it's not, brother. Hell no. Not even in a long shot. He's building more weapons. He's building more massive weapons. He wants to waste your taxpayer dollars, starting new wars and starting new arms races. He wants to use your taxpayer dollars to go sell and keep safe American weapons around the world. He's a violent, crazy guy, dude. Hey, está loco. Pablito, you got to dip out, dude. You got to get out of here, brother. Yeah. You got to get out of here, Instead of having those types of conversations, I don't know why we can't talk about having, electric semi-trucks that can run around poor regions in Africa that don't have a fair shot at building factories and compute centers. And you can't just have like some system like that is geopolitically like hugely important, right? It's hugely important to make sure mofos have clean water. It's hugely important to make sure mofos get the first like solar hatch roofs and they can connect to the internet, right? And so you are the least fortunate person in like the country of Nigeria or the country of Chad. And it's like, well, look, you still, just like a lot of other people in the United States, by the time you're 30, you can have an internet PhD. I don't know what you're going to get out of it, bro. You ain't going to get your 40 acres from it. You maybe aren't going to get a mansion like Mar-a-Lago, but just like a lot of other people, you can enjoy the conversation, right? You get to relax a little bit, who knows? Maybe it is hard work, but like a lot of other people, yeah, from 6 to 10, go find a comedy chat room, right? From 6 to 10, go find a comedy digital stand-up, go find, it's perfect, right? But go meet some guy from Russia who wants the same thing as you. Go meet some guy from China. I don't care. Go meet a Cuban, right? What about the Cubanos? What has Donald Trump done for Buena Vista Social Club? What has Donald Trump done for Buena Vista Social Club? You know, you make this beautiful Cubano style jazz music, right? You know, it's not Harambe falling into a thing. It's Harambe, brother. It's Harambe. It's a little bit of Harambe falling into the track, falling into the beat, the rhythm of it. You know, what has Donald Trump done for them? He's threatened them with missiles. He's threatened them with Marines. He's threatened them by ripping off people that would buy their energy or sell them energy, buy their cocoa beans or whatever it is. I don't care. Truthfully, maybe not all of that is all of my business, but when we think of multipolarity and we just think of, well, no, we still do have serious business to handle, and it truly doesn't matter when we're making progress. You know, that's not idealism. That's actually common sense and rationality. It's common sense and rationality. Let the big boys and girls play with the big toys. I don't want people that didn't think past a high school level of education telling me how I should be using my most powerful military in the world. I don't want you within 500 miles of that. I want you so far away from that. You know, if you want to come up and think you're doing it for a day or two, go think you're doing it for a day or two. But get out of my space. Give me some space, right? Give me some space. It's insane. Why does the USA France send 60 million a week to terrorist organizations? Yeah, you know, thinking of the US, you know, I don't know what you're talking about, but when we're thinking about like arms dealers, arms trafficking, when we're thinking about aerospace industries and national defense industries, or we're thinking about US military bases in other countries, you know, there is a reason, right? It's not unprecedented that other leaders, and you can blame whoever you want, but other leaders have committed mass genocides against populations. Other leaders have attempted to build in sort of unidirectional ideological directions. And yeah, if people are confused about that, you can see how much MAGA hates, how much the bigots and racists in MAGA hate Islam and hate people like Ilhan Omar. And then you can also take the geopolitical context outside of Christianity and say, well, look, we're still trucking along. So there is slightly a difference, I think. There is slightly a difference. And it's not a topic that talking about is going to fix or solve. Hey, see you, Greg. Thanks for joining. Thanks for chatting today. It was great talking. Ooh. All right, guys, I got to put up a stream overlay for just a second here. I'll be right back in just a second. I'll put a message down. But yeah, if you guys want to hang out for a while, I mean, I ain't got no plans, but if you guys want to hang out for a little while longer, feel free. Thanks, everybody. And I'm just going to put up the stream overlay. I'm going to put myself on mute, and I'll be back in a minute or two. Whoa. See you guys. There are a ton of. Oh, I'm back, dude. I'm gonna make some coffee. Make some coffee. You know, some people are good doing streams for a long time without making a ton of coffee. I ain't that good at that stuff. I like having coffee, dude. Just being totally frank. Angry melted craft singles. Yeah. Yeah, race realism. Race realism is real racism. um, yeah. You know, people voted for racist sandwich shops. That's how silly that is. Is they wanted Chick-fil-A to be more successful because, you know, they were saying mean things about trans and gay people. You sound like a submissive chat room handle. Man, though. Yo, though. Man, though. Yeah. Like a racist, yeah. You know, real racist streams use what do they use OBS. They use OBS and like chat room messenger services and stuff like that to chat with their chat. You know, they don't think that people that bought a Chinese cell phone off Amazon from Shenzhen directly can go live. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody's like that. You know, a lot of people think anyone's voice can be heard if you can stream. But yeah, it's also the same people who don't appreciate that, like, you know, all of, even like a Twitch partner, even someone who's part of like Twitch partner program or who gets like YouTube featured, you know, they're at the top of the YouTube growth charts. You know, YouTube's pretty much like a free market liberal growth platform. But some people don't appreciate that you get like twice the engagement, you know, on a platform like Quora or Reddit. And so that's kind of weird because you're talking about people's voices being heard, but you're only talking about it in one subset of the world, right? One small place. So, hey, Jessica Stevens, are we getting in trouble for that? I was saying that Trump was hanging out with Epstein and little wampuses, little wampy wampuses on little Saint Maria James, yeah, little Saint Susie Maria, you know, Bethel James Island, whatever it was. He saw wampuses and called the police. Hey, no, he ain't. No, he didn't, bro. He didn't call a single little wampus. You know, twitching it up. You just gotta twitch it up, baby. We gotta twitch it up, baby doll. We gotta twitch the baby up. Hell no, brother. Hell no. Oh, let's get rich and buy our parents' homes in the south of France. Let's get rich and build a house on the mountain, making everybody look like ants. Still got a shout out all the major crew. Shout out everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Hey, what up, Robert? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're having a fine day, sir. Sir or madam. Fast-tracking reviews of psychedelics for mental health disorders. Trump signs order to accelerate access to psychedelic drug treatments. Trump holds mind-bending meeting in Oval Office with Joe Rogan. Big sigh of relief. Republicans finally get some good news. Can it last? Nah. Not even close. No cap, dude. Trump promises lower gas prices at a Phoenix rally. You know, that's funny. Yesterday, Donald Trump said there's lower gas prices, and then today he's talking, yes, and then afterwards, last night after the rally, he talked about bombing Iran again. And then and now the Strait of Hormuz, I believe, has more aggression in it. So that doesn't sound like something a competent leader would do to me. Donald Trump isn't a competent leader. He made it the case that he could give you a promise and then blame someone else when he fails. Right? He made it so he couldn't really truly be the failure point. Okay, Mr. Presidente. Okay, Mr. Presidente, let's go find something good you did. Let's go find something nice President Donald Trump did. Let's see, Donald Trump saying the Iran war is close to over. Donald Trump hasn't even said why we're fighting in Iran yet, and he's already talking. He's talking to magazine reporters and stuff. He's broadcasting from the White House. The war is almost over still. He hasn't even, and this was, he said that he was successful. He said everything. The only thing he'd ever talked about was the nuclear program. No, I'm not really. You can fix me. If you want to fix me and make me a communist, that's one of the fun things. You can argue why. But yeah, I'm progressive Democrat. I like democratic socialists and stuff, but I'm not really. So Donald Trump says that we are hitting a deadline in Iran and Iraq, and we've got Iran, and we got all this new stuff. But he's not talking about all the people he has to fire to keep going. He's not talking about all the money he has to ask for. He's not talking about the people he already killed. He's not talking about who in the U.S. military is actually going to go do this. He wants you to believe that Pete Hegseth's just going to do all this stuff himself. That's so stupid, dude. That is the worst thing ever possible that he could be doing. Dude. Yeah, this is called off-roading, man. He's just making it up as he goes along, I think. And it's not, and you might say, well, how else would you do it? Well, the other thing you would do is you just say, well, I don't know how to accomplish making America great again. I lied to you about the slogan and you guys believed it, and so now I'm still lying to you. So absolutely insane, dude. On various issues, including nuclear, sanctions relief, and compensation. Yeah. Yeah, this is also, just how violent Donald Trump is he knows this too. You say you assassinated, you killed the Ayatollah, right? You killed the leader of this country. But then you also have Eric Trump and, whatever his name is. You've got your son-in-law and your son. You got these guys working in Pakistan or in Palestine. Nobody came for them. Nobody cared to actually listen to what you had to say about people you voted for to go, you decided you want these people to go fix Lebanon and fix Palestine. Nobody asked you to do that. And so the lies pile up and mount. The first lie you tell is that you just want to bomb the nuclear facility. And then you blow up cities, then you blow up people, you blow up all their boats, their navy. Then you go and you send your stupid vice president to go lie in Pakistan about it, and then you also have your dumb son-in-law, you have your dumb construction crew in Palestine, you got these idiots in Palestine and Lebanon. You didn't tell me you wanted to encourage Bibi Netanyahu to go blow up these Lebanese people. You wanted Bibi Netanyahu to drop bombs in wherever it is. I can't even think about it, right? You want to blow up hospitals in the West Bank. You wanted to blow up hospitals and schools in Lebanon. You wanted people, you say, hey, go live like a rat. Go live like a la rata, But while you're doing that, I'm going to send my son-in-law. I'm going to go send my kid. I'm going to go send a child to go do the work I'm going to go send a child to go do the work that grown adults do here. Okay, you wanted to talk about grown adults doing work? No, you didn't. You wanted to talk about all the people you killed, Donald Trump. This guy's an idiot, dude. This guy's dumb. He's such a folio, you know. Antonio Gutierrez, who's the UN secretary, said Tuesday that it's highly probable that these talks will restart. Highly probable that talks will restart. You know, that's not a vote of confidence for Donald Trump. That's just saying that you're going to get to talking. You know, because this guy, Antonio Gutierrez in the United Nations, he's a well-spoken guy, right? He's a leader. He's one of these people that knows a lot of people, knows a lot of things. And so it's highly probable that these talks will restart. No, because people would just, here's how I know, Mr. President, is these people would just be saying right away, well, we're confident a deal will be reached. We're confident a deal will be reached, and what will this do? It'll provide a reprieve for the fighting. It'll provide an internationally recognized sort of method of, you know, maybe funding our way out of this. The more conflicts, it's not going to be anything crazy, and it's going to do this third thing of, you know, you're going to have the Strait of Hormuz open again, finally, for a third time, third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth time. We're going to say the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's going to return global energy markets back to normal. It's kind of the big thing we all got to care about. And then it's also going to fix the stuff between all the four walls. But Donald Trump doesn't want that. He wants, you know, his stupid family. He wants his stupid family on top of military bases in the region. Get the fuck out of here. These guys are idiots, dude. You know, you're not fixing the problem. Andrew is well connected is the word. Andrew who? Andrew who? Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. What? I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it without you. I ain't going without you. Iran called the US blockade illegal and a prelude to violating the ceasefire. Yeah, I mean, that's believable. If you don't believe that either the Israel or the Palestinian people or Hezbollah or Hamas or the Israeli people, you don't believe that you guys don't believe that they were seeking peaceful resolutions in the first place. So in the first place, you know, when Iran calls out this is a cultural issue. So someone might say, well, Iran is talking about the issue of culture and society. And so Iran wants to handle geopolitical things with diplomacy and maybe with some levels of secrecy. And this should be right. You know, Donald Trump hasn't, people who think Donald Trump's been transparent because he's tariffing everyone. No, he hasn't. Donald Trump has been lying this entire time. He hasn't been transparent about anything, so it's not fair. You don't have real democracy, but you have oligarchy, and you can choose between only two parties. No, the two-party system works pretty well in the United States. You know, the two-party system works well. People, when you think of the two-party system, you forget that you have politicians in all 50 states at the state and the federal level. You know, there are deeply unfair things. You know, when we look at territories like Guam or Puerto Rico, you know, you look at these places, or you think of, you know, you think everybody has to argue differently in Congress and shape themselves differently to get federal funding for things. Okay, but saying that there's abundance in the United States and somehow you're just going to have like the, you know, the chop it off at the knees party, right? You know, this new form of fake Republican Democrat that's going to come in and somehow do things different, right? This is BS. Even libertarians ask the federal government for a ton of money for their districts and stuff like this. And even and the funny part is these libertarians voice these values, but then they can't go work with leaders in Silicon Valley or New York City. They can't do the things effectively. And so saying that the US's problem is the two-party system, I mean, I don't buy all that all the time. I don't buy all of that. Mr. Goose Rivers. Mr. Rivers, I don't totally agree, sir. Good sir. If I could, yeah, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, we don't talk of ocean health. And yet we imagine we elect a man, an artist perhaps, to paint a picture and make the oceans healthy. It isn't so. It should become clear to people over time, perhaps immediately. I might say that you can't paint a picture. You also can't write a book to simply make it so. And so those unwilling to do the work is the problem. Well, there are those willing to do the work standing in front of you. There are those willing to do the work. Open your internet browser. There are those willing to do the work. Visit the town halls. There are those willing to do the work. Visit the political committees. There are those willing to do the work. Go visit those who have dropped out of the system when it hasn't produced the change you want. The two-party system is a symptom, but it is a psychological one. There is no true tangible problem with the democratic republic system of government in the United States. Remember who you are. You are someone who works first, complains never, and asks third what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. And perhaps society's least desirables of all time, those who have themselves rejected the promise of wealth, rejected the promise of the big city, rejected the promise of the heartland and the farmland, rejected the promise of computers, rejected the promise of industrialization and trade and the financialization of our system. Those two are just like those who have served with civic responsibility and distinction. And so you find the least of us and you find the most of us, and you will find the solution to the problem you created in your own head. I don't know, dude. Because I'm on the internet. I'm allowed to do what I want, brother. Brother man. I believe I was talking like data. Tired idiots, communists drain me. You're great. Hope your channel thrives. Hey, thanks, Brian. Have a great day. Appreciate you a lot. Have a great day. I got a room full of whiskey. I got a stable full of horses. I got time for some problems, whispers and more. So send me up to Washington. Oh, I'll go live on the hill. And if I can't find a silver dollar, oh, I'll just go print some more. So rebels and revolution, mental health disease, veterans and freedom, something for you and me. The people in my country just won't say no to the fight. And if you'll join me slowly, oh, then we'll pick up the light. Do-do-do-do. Oh, everything's so heavy when I am not with you. Oh, everything's so heavy when the Constitution can't do the thing the Constitution laws were never meant to be. But I'll go watch RFK and Nike on TV. And everyone who's blue collar and had to fight for what they have is just so smart, but when they turn to David Goggins, you're still so smart, but so is he, but so is he, but so is he. I'm American, can't you see? Dur 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 dur. Here's the problem with American political culture, and I've been subject to this as well, is that the people that are solving the problems you want to think about are like not 3 days or not 3 hours, not 3 minutes, but like 3 years ahead of you, right? 3 years of full-time work trying to understand a problem. I mean, whatever. China is the one winning the war. I mean, China's going to run into the same issues, that resources become more expensive, so they have to sell more expensive products. And then at some point, companies in the West or non-adjacent substitute markets just perform better. So they're at the level of both products as well as these aggregate market movements. And so to say that we have something to fight about with China doesn't make sense to me personally, right? And so it's like, okay, cool. In a worst case, if I'm trying to think like a leader and I say in the worst possible world, we decide we want to mess with you, or you decide you want to mess with us. It's like, okay, well, why do you believe that what a stupid argument. You want to talk about why someone thinks they can win that fight. What do you think is going to actually happen, right? You want to give all of your control over, and you need that, and we don't. That's very stupid. That's incredibly stupid, you say you want to FAFO, but then at some point in this sense, we don't actually want to FAFO. We don't want to mess around and find out. We just want to go forward and fight or something. That doesn't make sense to me. And so, yeah, China's absolutely winning. I think China finding increasing success solving on the level of projects or something in China is good. And then you also have the free market seems to be over time solving more things for China. But, China's winning the war in Europe or something. I mean, very stupid stuff. Very stupid stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So impactfulness, Okay, cool. That's what you wanted to talk about instead of fighting was impactfulness or something. Okay. Yeah. I mean, shove it up my keister and call me Donnie. Okay. Yeah. Olam diala. Olam diala. Olam diala. Olam diala. Olam diala. Praise be to God. Olam diala. Should I go do some dawa, guys? Do you guys want to go see me do some dawa? Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. I appreciate everybody. Yeah, I think I might just do a recharge reset. Maybe go watch some other YouTube channels for a little while. Thank you for subscribing. Do subscribe if you guys like politics content. Maybe we can do a little more cultural discourse or just kind of kick back, chill back tonight, Saturday night stream, Saturday night, Sunday morning kind of deal. And yeah. And thanks again. Sorry I look like a crazy person. I'm trying not to look like a crazy person. I'm trying to look like somebody that is educated. Get out of here, pinned message. Who knows? Maybe we stick around, right? For the audience building grift, everybody. Nah, I just want to talk. I just want to talk. I just want to party. I just want to hang out. I just want to party. I don't have anything to talk about. Blah, blah, blah. Let's close the stream. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Let's close the stream. All right. Enjoy your day, guys. Take care. Have a good one.